Even as a kid, I always wanted to win. And if you believe it, it will happen. And it's been proven over and over again. They can take a blood sample and tell you what diseases you're going to get in your life. Whoever Satoshi is, him, her, they built something incredible.
Yeah, thanks for coming, mate. I do appreciate it. I
Yeah.
know we've been trying to put it together, but last time you had to flee the country, so
Yeah, all for the right reasons.
yeah, definitely, mate.
Yeah.
It's we were talking before we come on. It's just a wild time in it, but
Yeah, I think it's been about 9, 10 months since I was, no, but probably a year now since I was meant to come.
yeah, I think it was just before last Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
about a year now, almost coming up.
it's flown by.
It
This
has.
year's just flown by. Like,
It has.
how's life in Dubai? You go? That's the aim to go back there now.
Yeah. So I've come back for business here, and then I was hoping it was going to be about 6 weeks, but by the time it gets done, it's going to be close to Christmas. So it's probably going to be. I may go back for a week or two between now and then. But
Yeah. Do you mind if I sorry just a little bit?
yeah. But then, but more than likely, probably going to be in the new year now. I'm going to go back.
Yeah. Cool, mate. Cool. So do you find like that's going to be your home for the future? Do you think?
Yeah. I like waking up to the sun and just the energy, the people there. You know, just the conversation. It's easier to get in front of people. So if you're here and you want to try and network with people, people find it's hard to get in front of certain people. But over there, people are willing to meet you, help you. If you have a conversation, where you're up to. People, someone's always doing something, or there's a lot of good energy.
Yeah.
Where I find you can get it here, but a lot of people here complain and moan.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. It's
I
everywhere.
suppose you can create and build your environment and the people around you, but I think the sort of general sort of consensus in Wales is more of a complaining sort of area.
I'd agree, mate, to be honest with you. And that's the one thing I struggle with here, to be honest with you, is like guests, getting them actually here in the room
Yeah.
is so difficult because it's everyone so few and far between, really. Compared to, like you said, if you're over there, I bet there's tons of people who've got an interesting story or whatever. Not that people haven't around here, but what I'm saying is like big names or anything like that, it's kind of a good place to be, I'd imagine.
Yeah, just some of the people that, end of the day, we're in life and we try and leverage everything, regardless of how people put it. That's what we try and do, whether that's money, whether that's people. That's how you get from A to B, is leveraged in some form, knowledge or whatever. And over there, it's easier to leverage other people's time and knowledge because they're willing to help you, because it's more of a positive environment. And that's what I love. Just the sun helps a lot as well. Like, it's a lovely day today in sunny Wales.
Oh, I know, mate.
But, just waking up, the heat, the sun, I think that helps a lot. Just general things that help the energy, just certain foods. I think the sun is so important. And so, yeah, that's...
I'd have to agree, mate, because you look outside, you open up your curtains in the morning or whatever, you look outside, if it's pissing down with rain, it's like instantly one tick down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, whereas I'm sure you look outside and you're like, oh yeah, it's just, like you said, it just brings you up, doesn't it? When it's a sunny day, like in the summer, I'm saying to my missus, like, I don't know why are we here? Like, we're literally, it's not like depression, is it? But in the winter, like, people get sad, don't they call it, or whatever. And that's definitely like a real thing, because in the summer you're lifted right up when it's a nice week or whatever.
I think the weather has a massive impact on us, and I think it's something that we don't take that serious. And this world, it's becoming harder to travel now, but generally it's a small world. But we limit ourselves to certain areas, certain towns, and because this is where we know and our families in those towns, people think that it's not that they can't travel, but they always tend to come back to the same place, where everything that I've ever invested in travels number one. Just because you meet new people, you experience different cultures, you get a better understanding of the world, you learn new things. I think it's for anyone that's young. For me, I think that putting some money aside and putting into travel is more important than anything.
Yeah. It's interesting because you wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, one of my questions was what would be like your number one investment, and that
Travel.
sounds like that's the one. But
Just little things. So my kids, I've had them in Dubai. They're playing in a park. I remember actually down on JBR, they was playing in the park on the end of the beach, and I was watching them. They was having ice cream, and they come over and they was like, "This is our friend Solar." I'm like, "Oh, hi Solar," and she can't speak English, Dad. I'm like, so how do you know her name? And what I love is the fact that children, regardless of whether they speak the same language, somehow they can connect with each other, and somehow they manage to give each other their names.
Yeah.
And they're playing with each other, and they don't speak the same language. So I feel that some of the opinions of people that are quite close-minded are because they don't understand other people, other cultures, and the way people are. But just because they've been trapped in their sort of society as they know it, in this small area, and they don't understand it. And I think the travel opens your mind to that, but then it opens your mind to everything. Because if you're open-minded to people, then you generally just come up with ideas and stringing things together because you're naturally open-minded. And it also gives you a sense of taking responsibility as well. So, you know, I remember when I first started traveling when I was a kid, and I would just be sort of, and my dad took me to Chicago when I was about 15. He went on some course and just left me to just do what I want, which looking back, Chicago, you know, maybe not, you maybe shouldn't have done it, but I had to work my way around the city to go to the shops to see things. But it gave me that sort of, I had no choice but to work it out. And then from then onwards, travel to me is normal, where I've been away with people that panic when they travel. They're like, oh, what have I got this? Do I need to do this?
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier than people think. It's just that we get anxious over it because some people don't do it as often.
Yeah.
So,
I'd say I was like that the first couple of, I organised the first boys' holidays or whatever we ever did, and you like got all this paperwork, and you're like, where do I go? But like you said, it always happens anyway, doesn't it? Yeah. I think that's just a state of mind we're in general anyway, like as a consensus.
Yeah.
Where we just panic over the small stuff. Whereas like if you can find like mechanisms to turn that off in your mind, then your life just changes. And I say it all the time, I found myself like in and out of ways, you know, like practicing, like for me, meditation and things like that, you know, mindfulness, like cold water, all these sorts of things, just exercise in general. Like you could just change your state through your body instantly. And you don't find things like that as stressful then if you know how to like hack yourself.
I feel that we're just trained to be scared to fail. And, you know, even now, look at kids in schools, like there's no winners, and I don't understand. Like it's okay to fail, it's okay to lose. You just gotta. I think that especially in children, they need to feel how it feels to lose. They need to feel what that feels like, because I remember I'm quite a competitive person, and when I used to play sport in school or whatever, if I had, whether I was playing football, basketball, boxing, whatever it is, if I lost or if I had a bad day, I hated it. So I had to come back better the next time, and I used to work at it. And you see some of the people you've had on this show, you know, the reason why they're successful in what they do, especially like the fighters, is because they're competitive and they push themselves and they know what it takes. Yeah. And I think that if you don't know what it's like to lose, then what happens when you don't lose until whatever age they do it now in school? Let's say it's 12, 13, at that stage, they don't have to take it. Yeah. And they become a bit weaker. So I think that it's important it's okay to fail. It's okay to, you know, mess up if you travel. It's okay to do all those things. You know, it's just life. That's how you learn. You either learn from others' mistakes or your own. Yeah. And I'd rather learn from others.
yeah, definitely. Well, like you say, you like idolize winners, for instance, don't you? You see like UFC fighters, where I watched UFC, I'm into that. So I look at people like Jack Shaw and whatever, and I'm like, you know, what a talent. And like, I'm sure loads of young kids look up to him as a winner, but then they haven't got the opportunity to be a winner. Like, that's just a weird scenario, isn't it?
And Jack, the discipline behind Jack and just how regimented he is as an individual is inspirational to the young people coming in, you know, coming up in MMA. And I feel, like you just said, you know, they see him being a winner, but no one knows what he would have had to do to get to that sort of level he's at now. And you know,
look at, like, I may be wrong here, but if he hasn't got a goal, say it's like 10 years away, say like you're a kid or whatever and you've got to wait till you're 12, that's like 4 years away till you can start becoming a winner. Do you think, like, without little mini goals on the way up of becoming a winner, like Jack would maybe be as disciplined for 4 years if he had to wait 4 years for a fight? You know, it'd be tough, wouldn't it? Yeah. I know for me, like, if I'm training for something, if I've got like a run event or whatever, for me, well, I'm undisciplined, so I'm like balloon up in weight, but then when I'm training for something, I'm really like zoned in. So I feel like if you're taking away like people's goals, it's really hard for them to like actually build that character, innit?
Well, even as a kid, I always wanted to win. If I played football when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I wanted to win. Luckily we had a manager back then that wanted to win. He forced us to win. But, now it's just like one team could win 7-0 and it's like, there's no winner. You both get a trophy.
Yeah, you're taking away from the people who've put the hard work in, aren't you?
Yeah, it's not just damaging the people that don't know what it feels like to lose, but it's damaging the people that don't know what it feels like to really win, because they're like, I've worked hard, like you just said, but for what?
Yeah.
What am I working hard for? And then it does is a knock-on effect, because as kids, we value different things as kids. So when it comes to whether that's a job or you go self-employed, or however pathway you take, then where's the motivation to want more? And I think that's what we're seeing now with all these job vacancies now. Nobody wants to work.
No, I also think like that was a rocket at the arse of that whole like memo. No one wants to work at the start of this when everyone was paid to not work.
Yeah,
like I'll be honest, I've got a day job, and having a month off does you no good. Like the less you do, the less you want to do. I always say, like, because the more you sit around, the more it's harder to get up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've just done that. Like people are just sat at home doing nothing for a month, getting full pay. What do you expect? Like,
I know, and like in those situations, I like the topic of sort of the central banking and stuff, but in the situation of, if you're going to lock something down, a country, that's when, they should turn on the sort of the money printers. But for how long do you allow people to become dependent on government incentives? And we're sort of created now a society of, well, I don't really need to work, and it can only go so far. So the people that don't understand how this works and the sort of the playbook of how this plays out are just going to be sitting on their hands like, well, I'm just going to take what I can as long as I can, and not understand of all the different factors that do factor into this situation. And again, I feel that it's just a lack of real education from our education system, which I'm not a big fan of either.
Yeah, no, I agree, because you look at all the things which I use in my life now, like, I don't know, you get a mortgage, get a house, or, like yourself now, you into crypto and whatever. I know there was never an opportunity back then maybe to learn about that. Just finance in general, how to do anything, like life skill wise, it's just not going on, is it? I know you have like your PE class, but like the mindset behind why you do that and everything, like it's just, we're trained to just be like numb, I feel. Like you don't, I think there's an element you need to learn history and geography and everything, but you don't need to have like hours a week on it every week, do you?
Well, the education school was set up to try and get more workers into factories years and years ago. But the problem is that the education system hasn't evolved. We're still sat behind desks doing the same thing. The problem is now that technology has moved everything on so far that how many of those jobs that people are training to be a specialist in are going to be there as long for a career long life of theirs, so that you go to university to study a subject that you get a career out of, but it depends how long you class as a career. So that's the situation we're in now. I started to see it because when I took business in year 10 and 11. And my teacher, she's never run a business, then I went to do an accountancy course in college. Teacher's never been an accountant. Started to see a bit of a pattern, and then it sort of put me off the whole education. To be honest with you, it made me a little bit immature and naive then to life, because I was a bit disheartened, and I thought, well, I'm learning from people that don't actually do the job that they're teaching.
Yeah.
And then it did put me off.
I bet when you look back, anyone who was successful in business, unless they were like a really, really good person, would they want to teach people how to do business? Because it's got to be like a down pay, isn't it?
Yeah, well, not in school, like that's why, I've paid for mentors many times, but they're people that have done what they say they're doing, and then you want to leverage their knowledge, and that costs money, which I'm happy to pay. There's some of the stuff when I wanted to get into property, I paid for a property course, and then, I sort of fast tracked the whole thing because I didn't have to wait years and years learning, reading books, watching millions of YouTube videos trying to decipher which ones are actually worth listening to or not. I
Yeah.
just thought, I'm just going to pay somebody that has done this. I'll leverage their knowledge and I know how to do it. And I did it. Anything that I've learned, that's the way I've done it. The only thing I probably haven't really had a mentor for was crypto, because it's quite subjective. It's up to you what you look for. You know, you can talk to 1,000 different people and they could all tell you the best project available. You know, everybody's sort of got their own little cult in different areas. But yeah, all the others, I just feel that it's the best way. If I was to go back to school and do all this again, I would just go straight away, find somebody that I want to copy for their life. I want a life, and I just be like, look, can I work for you for free? If not, how much do you want, and how can I pay you? If you've got no money, you just got to find a way. That's literally, you could fast track. To me, the formula is that's the formula. Go do it. Read as much books as you can. Turn your back on the crowd as early as possible, because how many friends, when you look back in school, do you actually put yourself around now? If you look back, how many are still there?
One.
Yes, that's what usually happens. You have one or two maybe. It's not that you disown people. It's like you see them, you say, you know, how's things? But realistically, actively being around somebody from school, everybody goes different ways. So, like, if I could go back, I would have changed all of that. But look, it's all part of the journey and experience. So,
well, you wouldn't have a full taste of it though, would you? The difference it makes, because I've had and like, you know, I love all my friends to bits and whatever, but to even do this, you know, to put the time aside to do this rather than sitting down the pub watching a football or whatever on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or whatever, and then the other night editing it or whatever, you got to like put your time into something that you want to do, and you got to cut things off, and influences as well, you know, because like I said a couple of times, years ago, I wasn't like quite a positive person. I didn't believe in myself or whatever. And that's because like you say an idea and people are like, that won't work, because they're trying to put their own insecurities onto you, really, aren't they? They're saying, that wouldn't work for me, so why is it going to work for you? Whereas people make it work. People do things that are successful. And yeah, you've got to try and shut that noise off and just like find your inner confidence, haven't you?
Yeah. And once you've done it, they will ask you afterwards, how do you do it? And can you help me?
Yeah.
But it's just a belief system on the way. And it's not always their fault either, because it's the environment. We are in control of our environment to a certain extent, but some people don't notice it until later on. It took me a long time. You know, looking back, what I surrounded myself with like 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer, I look back and think, you know, it's so stupid. You know what I mean? Just like knowing what I know now, it's always as you grow in life. But looking back, it's like, how much time did I waste? And back then I thought that was the right thing to do. So, you know, you just learn as it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And that's always going to be the case, isn't it? It's always going to, unless you're learning, like, unless you grow and you're dying, aren't you? I always see it as, unless you're like looking for the next thing or whatever. I've always been like called a dreamer. Oh, you're trying this, you're trying that. I'm like, just going to keep trying. You know, I'm going to try it until something sticks. And I'd rather do that. The thought of just settling, like, I've got a day job. The thought, anyone who like works for me who's watching this probably thinking I'm mad, like, but just to say, like, I'm going to stick at that for the rest of my life does not inspire me in the slightest to have a great life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
well, the hardest thing of all is waking up and doing the same thing over and over until it works, right? Just having the resilience and discipline to keep doing it when everyone's saying it's not going to work, when things aren't going right for you, day in, day out. But you just got to keep doing it. If you believe it, it will happen, and it's been proven over and over again. All you got to do is look at every single person that now people class as an influence to them, and when people say the words, you know, there's no difference to you and them, and people don't believe it, but that's the truth. There is no difference. Some of them's come from a lot worse backgrounds than we have, and they've managed to do it. Some of them has been against all odds, and they've still done it. And you know, you do need a bit of luck on the way, but if you don't put yourself in the right position to get the luck, you're never going to get it. And that's the hardest thing to do, is just keep going, you know. And
you create your own luck to a certain degree, don't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, people have been in far worse positions than me. Like, I've had a great family growing up, do you know what I mean? More love than you could deal with. A pretty smooth life, you know? And then, you see people who've like really been in the depths of hell make it. And I'm like, there's no excuse.
It's not.
There's no excuse.
Especially now more than ever, you know, we got access to every piece of knowledge we need from every asset class, every industry. You can pretty much go online now without leaving your house and learn and become quite specialist in pretty much anything if you take enough time to do it.
Yeah.
There's literally no excuse. You know, people want to go. So something I mentioned before is about the time, and death does give time value, right? So recently I lost my dad, right? And when you
sorry to hear that, mate.
When something like that happens, you start to realize about the value of time. And something I like to say is, if you say to somebody like, look, if I could tell you the day that it's your time to go, and then you had a countdown time on your head, would you live every day differently? And every single person's going to say yes. If I said you got a month left, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing. I'm going to make the most of the next 30 days. But the thing is, we do have a timer on our head. We just don't know what it is, and it's invisible. We can't see it. But because we don't think of life like that every single day, we just disregard stuff. We just waste time. We waste like valuable time talking to people that gives you no value. We waste time watching stuff that, I'm not saying you should have downtime. I'm not saying never go and watch Netflix, but if you want your life to look like this, and it looks like this now, then you got to fill the gap of getting to this. And if you're not doing everything day to day, that this life that you've designed in your mind, if it's not going towards it and you still haven't got it, you can't complain. Because if you're going to complain, but you're not doing what it takes to get there, then you're just tricking yourself. And that's the thing. You talk to people, and if you said to every single person, so do you live how you want to live? And they'll say, well, some people could be content. Yeah, I like everything I got, which is cool. It's one of the hardest things to do, is be content and understand your purpose of life. And, you know, I think it's amazing that people are content. You know, sometimes I wish I was, I wish I was content sometimes. It's just different personalities.
I see people as well, and I think sometimes maybe they're shut off to a lot of ideas and they're just living in their lane and they seem happy. And I like sometimes look at them and feel like a bit jealous or whatever, because I'm like, I just can't be like that. Do you know what I mean?
And sometimes I wish I was. I'm like, God, some of the stress I put on myself to achieve certain things. And then there's some people who are just so content. They go to work, they come home, they got their family, and they're just happy to have their dinner in the night.
Are they though? That's what I want to know. Maybe. Are they like, oh, is that what they just tell you because the other reality is too sad to deal with? You know?
Yeah, potentially. Like, don't get me wrong. If you ask people, like, have you got everything you want in life? And they say yes. Say, well, there's nothing in the world that you'd want outside of, like, everybody likes certain materialistic things. That's the world we live in, right? And some people may be like, well, I wouldn't mind going on an extra holiday, or I wouldn't mind doing this, and that. But for me, it was like, I want to wake up, decide what I do every single day. I want the freedom of choice to decide every single day where I want to wake up and what I want to do. And that's the goal. When I was younger, it was money goals. Like, don't get me wrong, to get certain things you need to get certain levels of income. But, to me, it's just more about convenience now. I want to wake up where I want to wake up. If I want a meal cooked, then I want a chef to cook it. I want them there. If I want a nanny for my kids, I want just the convenience of life more than I want this number, and it does take a while to work that out, but it's everybody would always pick something else that they want. But if they're not actively doing what they need to get there, then they can't moan.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I agree with that. I've been saying for years I want to get out of my 9 to 5, and it's only been this last 12 months I've actually been really putting in effort to do it, and I can still see there's more I could be doing, definitely 100% more that I could be doing. And it's just got to do it, and you believe in yourself. Like, I've taken on like a sort of life coach the last 2 months, 3 months. And just for my mind, it's just changed everything. I was doing this. At the start, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to work. Midway then, I was like, it's not where I need it to be. And it's not now to obviously make any financial money on it or whatever, But I'm still... Now I believe it's going to happen. It's just time and effort, and I'm just going to keep going, and also try other things along the way, But like, it's just having that belief. If you don't believe it, like, how can I say like this isn't going to work and then it works? It's just not going to happen, is it? No. You're just lying to everyone and yourself. Then if you don't even believe it, like, it's never going to work.
Mindset's the hardest thing to get first. Is all the other stuff. You need to get your mind right first, because if you don't believe it, you're not going to put the right effort in. But as far as coaches and mentors go, as far as I'm concerned, people try and look at the cost, what they cost, but it's an investment. That's an investment in you to grow you as an individual. It's all investment. And one of my favorite books, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. It shows you how to, if you have an idea or you want to do something, never think of how to do it. Just think of the who you need to get it done. And that's how you scale in life. Yeah. That's how you grow, is finding the who's. You write down all the who's you need to get something done. Stop working out how to do it. Don't wear all the hats. Because when you first do something, that's what you do. I've done it loads of times. You know, start a business, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the marketing, the accounts, the this, the front. That's just what happens. But you've got to start delegating to all the who's, and that's how you grow. So every company grows. That's how every individual grows. They have the right team around them. You know, talking about Jack Shaw, look at his team, right? You got MMA, Conor McGregor. All these individuals got teams around them to make them who they are. You know, they're not waking up. Conor McGregor's not waking up, making his breakfast, you know, doing all that stuff.
Even deciding what he's doing for the day.
Yeah.
He's just turning up.
Exactly. You just got to turn up and all that's an investment. That's not a cost. So when people start to think about, I would like a mentor, I would like a coach, but I'm not paying that. It costs too much. It's like, well, no, that's an investment. You invest. For a start, if you've got a business, you can write it off anyway as an expense, but it's an investment in you.
That's your roadblock as well. That's saying no to that is your roadblock. I figured that out like 2 weeks into this, like, you know, having this mentor. I was like, this is mental. What it's done for me already, you know. And I said, like, initially I was like, oh, fucking hell. I was literally, what I find with my life is I always try something new, go down to zero, try something new. And I always seem to roll over like that. And that was this case again. And I was like, I've done that loads of times now. I don't know if I can do this again. But bit the bullet, did it. And like some of the things that's happening from doing it, I'm going to be making more back than I paid out anyway. Like you said, it's just an investment because I didn't believe in some of the things I'm going to be doing next. Like next year now, I've got like a couple of live events which I'm going to do with some people. I'm not going to say any names, but and like I did never believe I could do that. I didn't have the self-confidence or whatever. And now, like since working with him, I'm just like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
and the investment's back already. You know,
and that's it. That's it. Like sometimes when you invest money, whatever the medium exchange is, right? Whatever money you invest in something, people expect that money back. But sometimes it's not money that you get in return. It'll pay off. It could pay off down the line. But like you said, just start with the mindset and the belief first. You invest in somebody to get access to unlocking your brain to believe more. And that's where it all starts. And then from there, when you've done it once, when you do your first event, you do the second one, then your mind opens up even more, and it keeps unlocking these doors in your mind to keep growing and growing. And that's why you see everybody knows all the great stories of individuals that have gone from this and done this. It's because they keep unlocking those doors through belief and achieving different. So you get to somewhere, you do it, you achieve it. You're like, oh, I can do that now. That's normal. So when you first released your first podcast, I bet you was like, oh, I want to put this out now. I want people to listen to it. And then once you've done it, a second time. Once you've done it once and the second one goes out and then the next one is normal, then you know I'm going to put this out. People are going to watch it because people tune into my podcast, and it just becomes normal. And then that achievement that you valued at the start, where you're like, I got some views, I got this, all of a sudden that's just normal. You don't get the same sort of dopamine hit because it's
I don't, mate. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, oh, that's normal. Now I upload this and people watch it because you now have a locked in following, an audience that is an achievement, but it's like, oh, that's been ticked off now. You know what I mean? The next one. So, that's just life. That's
why you can definitely always do more than you think you can. Because like you said, it's just like now this is second nature. I used to like stress about it. Oh, what if this comes up? What if that comes up? Thinking about all the worst eventualities and whatever. And now I just turn up chilled and just have a chat, to be honest with you, and just enjoy it. And I just think that's what I'm going to do. Try to add value to the people who are watching for a start. You know, more so like mindset than anything. Like we haven't even, I could come in here and say to you, oh, what do you think like the next biggest crypto is going to be, or what's this or what's that? But for me, that's not where it starts. No. You know what I mean? That's like, I'm not an interviewer. I don't see myself as an interviewer. I see it as like, I'm coming in here to like see who you are. Do you know what I mean? Show people who the person on the other side of the table is and what makes them tick and how they are where they are, not, you know, the little intricacies along the way.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a question I get asked all the time on Instagram is, what's this? And the truth is, nobody knows. Same as the next stock. Same as the next, when's the property market going to crash? When's this going to happen? No one really knows. No one can time the market. It's just, we just work off probability, and to work off the probability and get to that level, that's where obviously you learn, and then you start looking at different things that moves the market, and then you can just work out what's the higher probability of when this is going to happen to this is going to happen. But a lot of people do message me, what's the next crypto? And I'm like, well, I don't know what the next exact crypto is that's going to go and do 30,000%.
Yeah.
But even if I did, it makes no sense to me telling you, because you just might as well go down a casino and put it all on black or red. That's not how it works.
That one's so volatile.
Yeah, but either way, you don't just say, speak to somebody and go, oh, by the way, okay, cool. Thanks for telling me this. I don't know why you said it. I don't know what's made you pick that, but I'm just going to just put all my money into this because you've told me. It's just, and you got to be careful who you talk to on social media as well, because everybody becomes experts in their field. And I always say to people, if you're following someone on Instagram or whatever platform it is, scroll all the way back through their entire social media, and you'll see where it clicked for them first. You'll see the year and the time that it clicked, and you'll be like, oh, this is where they started becoming a little bit successful, which is fine because everybody has that click. But then what I've noticed is, and I don't want to discredit anyone that's grown in this sort of uncertain time, but since sort of like bounce back loans, government grants have come out over the past 18 months, I've seen a lot of people that all of a sudden now, they're coaches, they're this, they're that, because they've had access to a bit of liquidity they've never had before.
Yeah.
And now they can make their social media presence look amazing and all of this stuff. You've got to be careful. I would definitely do due diligence on anyone before you start taking advice off it. And plus there's loads of fake profiles as well. And yeah.
I see you get tapped up with that a lot, don't you?
There's so many scams out there. It's like, but I don't understand. The people that actually send people like if someone makes a fake profile of me and they're like, oh, send me, I don't know, half a Bitcoin and I'll send you this back. Who falls for that?
Yeah, that's just mental, isn't it?
Who actually falls for it?
There must be people doing it though, because
they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, they must be making money some shape or form.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's people with much bigger presences than me. I don't know why they make fake profiles on me. I don't, but it is crazy. You ever got to be careful on social media, because I know a lot of people that I know personally that make more money from selling like advice than they do in the thing that they're selling advice on, and they ain't been doing it that long. So you have got to be careful. It's not that they don't know what they're talking about, but I would be going to people that's proven and actually actively doing, and whatever it is they're teaching. Yeah. I think that's important.
I always get a question mark, and obviously you're the guy to answer this, I suppose, because you're doing both. You're working on it and you're like coaching people and doing your courses. But I always get the question like, yeah, how can you trust someone? Like if, say you've got this much time and that makes you so much money, are you better off putting your time into that than the actual coaching? Like, I wonder how do you...
It's a good question.
Warrant the balance then?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So when I was about 15, talking about life coaching, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a life coach, but I thought, how can I become a life coach and I ain't done nothing? I can't be a life coach at 16 years old. Yeah. So for years and years and years, I had people say like, do you do coaching? I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And started the 5 a.m. club, which was more about bringing other people and letting them be on a platform. And then I did a presentation, and then people was like, did you do coaching? I was like, no. And I kept getting asked this over the past probably 18 months to 12 months. And I had one or two one-to-ones that I was working with, and I'm just focused directly on results. And the reason why I say that is that's what you're meant to be. But people that I've had paid for coaching off was never focused on results. He was focused on knowledge. Now you can read as many books, do as many courses you want. That's not going to make you successful. Taking action makes you successful. So I was like, until I'm ready and I have I have time and a platform that I'm like, right now I know how what I'm doing, I could pass over to somebody else. I know they could be successful. So it took time. So I started working on it, and I was like, right, now I have my formula that I know I can make other people successful. I can work with others and they can gain something from this. And, I've been in a situation where I've had to I know it's probably not a nice way to say it, but sack clients, because I've taken them on. They've told me they want to achieve this, this, and this, and then they don't do it. And to me, it's not about the money to me. I charge for my time because my time's valuable. But if someone don't want to work, I don't want to turn up on calls every week with them and try and persuade them to do stuff. If you don't want it, then don't waste your money with me, and I don't want to waste my time either. And that's as blunt as I can put it, because I don't do it to earn money. I do it. I value my time, but I enjoy it. I love seeing people get results. I got a client right now that's basically, we just closed a deal for him. He's acquiring a business up in Manchester. It does just over $1 million in revenue. This guy's 24 years old. He's going to give his dad a job inside this electrical wholesalers to manage it. Just knowing that his life's changed. Not just me, because he took action. If he didn't take action, it would not have happened. He built the rapport with the seller, and he did a great job, right? But I'm focused on those results. Some of my crypto clients, they might be up, 400-500% over the past 12 months, which isn't that hard if you buy and hold anyway. But I found out what their risk appetite, whether they're willing to tolerate as far as risk goes, and then we've structured and put the strategy in place for them. So to eliminate as much risk as possible if they're not a high risk person, and then we'll grow their portfolio that way. So for me, it's all about results. So when I had to wait until I was ready to pass that information on. I was like, until I was confident I could transfer what I know and other people could use it. Because just because you know stuff doesn't mean that you can teach stuff. That's not how it works. And so I waited until the time was right. And when I automated everything I had going on in life, I had time. And that when I had time, I have to limit it. There's certain levels. You get to so many one-to-ones or whatever, and you're like, it's impossible now for me to coach all these people because I'm not productive myself. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. I've got stuff going on myself. So I'll take a certain amount of people, get those results. They can do it on their own. Then I may take somebody else. If I want time off, I have time off from it. But, it's you have got to be careful because, like you said, if some people's waking up every day and all they're doing is coaching people, so what do you do then?
Yeah, exactly. That's it, innit? They've got to have their own thing going on, especially like when it comes down to making money in it. If his mindset or whatever, it's a bit different. But if it's like purely, I'm going to teach you how to earn loads of money, surely they'd just be earning loads of money. Yeah. It's without, obviously your reasons are different, which is why I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that question is probably banded about a bit, isn't it?
I think it's a good question though, because I think it's a question that everybody should ask their coach. If you're on the phone to a coach and you're deciding whether that person is going to become your coach, I would say the same thing. Because looking back, I never asked that question.
Yeah,
I was just always like, I just wanted the knowledge of this person, so I'm going to pay them. I spent over 6 figures on coaching, and I don't think I did learn from all the different people, and I appreciate what they've taught me, but none of them was really forcing me or making me take action. When I say making me, it's up to me, but I mean, like, no one was like, you need to take action on this now. They were just like, I'm just going to give you the knowledge and it's up to you, which in a way should be the way you say it. But for me, I know if I coach somebody and when we part ways, whether you're successful or whether you didn't do it, there's no way they can turn around and say, oh, D was terrible because I didn't do this and I didn't do that. I literally make people do it. Because I'm like, I want you to get results. Otherwise, there's no point in us having conversations. That's it. And I am passionate about it. I do love doing that. I love, helping people. But you can only allocate so much time to it because I've got shit going on myself.
Yeah, I think it shows though, just from the fact you're willing to like ditch off people who are paying you money to be there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know many coaches, but I would imagine there's not many of them. Many of them just be like, oh, well, tough. I'll just carry on taking your money and we'll just go through the motions. Yeah. But obviously that's not your mindset. You want them to succeed. So,
and no offense to the people that I have done now with, if you are listening, but they know why. They, like, whether they wasn't ready at the time or whatever it was, or whether they had stuff going on, there was reasons by it. There wasn't just, some of them didn't just want to not do it. They had other things going on, which I thought it wasn't the right time for me or them to be working together. So save their money, and when they're ready, they can either find me or somebody else to help them. And it's a lot of people just do it for lifestyle, and that's why I say look back on someone's social media. Look back how many years someone's been living a life the way they've been living it, and if it's been in a year before that they wasn't. It's not that you can't blow up in a year, but I mean, if you want experience from somebody and knowledge from experience, then look how far back they've been maintaining a certain lifestyle. Yeah, that's important because social media tells all. You can find a lot of stuff out on there.
Yeah, it's a crazy place, isn't it? Like, I don't know about you, but I got to take time off there every now and then, like a few days, because I don't know, after a while, it's just like, like you say, like with people you bother with or whatever, they seep in, don't they? So if you're on there all the time, I follow mostly people who like inspire me and things anyway.
Yeah.
Try to avoid much else, but it's still every now and then I just got to like have a detox from it because it's just blows your mind.
Yeah, it is hard because I've got the 5 a.m. club, for instance. You know, every week I got to find a new speaker, and you know, it's arranging it week in, week out. But and again, I know people there that I haven't directly coached, but I know how much they've got from the platform with the speakers that have come on, because it does open your mind when you surround yourself with good people, when you follow the right pages, like you just said. You know, we're in control of what we see every single day, and the truth is, the social media platform is going to show you what you want to see.
Yeah.
So you decide.
Exactly.
Whatever you look for, whoever you follow, is going to show you what you want to see. So, you know, just look at the ads that you're being targeted with, and you'll see if you're watching all the right stuff.
The trouble is, though, I don't know about you, but we naturally want stuff that's not good for us as well, don't we? Let's be honest. Like for me, you know, food's like a big thing, and the same as social media. You follow people, it's like, or you watch telly. Like you said, you watch too much Netflix or whatever, because it's just like, it's so easy, isn't it? It's so easy, and it's trying to get out of that, innit? And
it's good to
it's
switch
recognizing
off too.
it,
Yeah,
it?
you do need time to switch off, because you know I do find that hard sometimes. The work-life balance is hard, but you do need that time, because you can get taken away. And you know, something I talk about a lot now is like the new sort of digital sort of revolution that we're going through now, and we're already in sort of two worlds, like the real world, the digital world, and now with like the metaverse and things that are coming, we're going into this a new paradigm again.
Yeah.
And people don't even realize we're basically some people live more in their digital sort of identity now. You know, like you see people all the time, Facebook, Instagram. We already care what other people think that we don't know. Some people on the other side of the world, and we're more concerned what they think of us now than someone down our local shop to see us in real life. We care more about what they see us like on socials.
Crazy.
So imagine when we're inside a metaverse and a virtual world where you're tied to, you know, tokenized real estate, NFTs. You know, if I said to you, would you buy your avatar or Gucci hat in the metaverse, and it's going to cost you 500 quid, you'd be like, why would I do that? But people are already doing stuff like that in Fortnite.
Yeah.
So imagine when you have your actual own identity inside a virtual world.
You're getting judged on it.
Yeah, you will care what your avatar looks like inside it, and you care what you own. We're going to be in a world where, you know, your house in the virtual world could be worth more value-wise than it is in the real world.
Yeah.
Because you'll value it more, because this street in the virtual world potentially could be like a hotspot, so people could be paying for advertising space on your front lawn.
Yeah. I watched your the one on the Earth 2 and all that sort of thing.
Oh, and the crypto challenge.
Crypto challenge, yeah. And I've been meaning to ever since. I want to buy my house on there just as like,
just in case.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, it's and you know, like on there when I mentioned about inside the metaverse, where, like for instance, Facebook now working on their augmented reality. They pumping millions into AR and VR. Now, can you imagine? Like, I remember Pokemon Go. People was like sort of running out into the street, almost getting
insane,
run over.
wasn't it?
Well, imagine now because they're already working on their glasses, and they're gonna have contact lenses. Now, imagine when you put these on, and you're deciding whether you're in the AR or in just normal world. If you're in the AR world, you walk through Times Square. You could, without the glasses on, you could see, I don't know, maybe JP Morgan advertising a new ETF or something. And you put your glasses on, and then you've got somebody advertising, I don't know, a pair of Jordans instead. And you can switch between both, because that advertising space is being sold twice, because one's been sold in AR, one's been sold in the real world. And then it opens up an entire new world of everything. And that's just augmented to real life. Then imagine when you put the virtual in it as well, like, you know, Ready Player One style. Have you seen Ready Player One on Netflix?
No, I haven't, no.
That type of stuff. And your avatar, some people's avatars inside the virtual world are going to be more influential and popular than they would be in the real world. And people will be, it's like an escape. People are going to spend more time in the virtual world. They already do. Kids are gaming, that game now, already spend more time inside a video game, and their presence and who they are in there, more in there than they do outside. You know, and that's, it's already happening. And like Travis Scott, for instance, he performed inside Fortnite, landed in a spaceship. Now, I'm not a gamer, right? But he landed in some spaceship in Fortnite, and I think he had 12 million people or players watching. Now, the thing I mentioned it on a webinar yesterday is, okay, so how many people can you fit inside Madison Square Garden? I know you can't fit 12 million people. So now, you know, and Tory Lanez sold out in a couple of seconds 1 million copies of his NFT album. So you've got to start looking at the way this is going to affect entertainment and the industry. Now, you know, is Jay-Z going to want to go and perform live in Madison Square Garden and travel around the world? Or is he going to be like, look, I'm just going to do a performance inside the metaverse. I can get 100 million people watch me and I'll charge them all
£1.
Yeah, or whatever token it is
yeah,
inside.
yeah.
And this is the way the world's going to go. You can create anything in there. And NFTs represent anything you want them to. You want this microphone, you can make it an NFT. This logo, you can make it anything you want. Your house, you can tokenize. And this is where now property investors, you're going to want to go and own all this tangible property around the world, or you can build a global property portfolio buying tokens of different assets. You can buy a token of the Burj Khalifa. You can buy a token of Big Ben. You can invest in real estate assets and tokenize ones inside that world where you can just own tokens of it. And now you're in a yield off all these different assets around the world. It's a completely new world we're going into, and I don't think many people are ready for it, honestly.
I don't think so either. I'm not.
Yeah.
So say, for instance, my house now then, if I wanted to make it an NFT, can you do that with an actual physical like property now? Can you?
Yeah. So there's a company called Realty in America that already tokenized property in Chicago. It's one in the UK called Treehouse. There's loads of doing it already. And there's actual platforms like Upland are trying to mirror the world now in the same way. But let's say, for instance, that say you rented this house out, let's say, I don't know, you had £1,000 a month, right? And let's say the cash flow on it was £800. You could create, say, I don't know, Experience Real podcast tokens and say, I'm going to sell you 100 Experience Real podcast tokens, and that can access £400 of my monthly cash flow. So I want you to pay this amount for it, and now you have access and the yield of that many tokens on my house. And then you can say, do you know what? I want to sell the other 50%. I want to sell 20, 20, 10. And I'll sell it to him, and him, or her over there, or wherever you want. And then you can now monetize your house and give it to different people, potentially at different yields, all through a smart contract. And the way this can be done is you can literally automate it. So the government get their taxes or whatever they need from it. The landlord gets his money. The management company gets theirs. Everybody gets paid through a smart contract, all automatic. No need to go and ring the estate agent. No need to contact the HMRC. No need to file accounts. All done on the smart contract. No need for anybody. And this is where, you know, these job vacancies that people are seeing, say no one wants to work. We're in a situation where no one wants to work. They want the government incentives, but we're also at the same time crossing with technology. And before, we've been talking about this for 20 years, or technology is going to take all the jobs. But we've actually hit a situation now where this is going to happen. Like, you know, what the example I usually say is the Elon Musk Neuralink example. So you hit a Neuralink.
Yeah.
So this chip in the brain. So the way that gets inserted into a human is by a robot with pinpoint precision. So they're trusting a robot over a surgeon to insert this into your brain, the most protected sort of organ on the body, right? And a robot does it. So I always say to people, if the surgeon's job's on the line, then whose job isn't? And robotics, I don't think people understand how advanced they are. Like, you know, Elon himself said artificial intelligence should be regulated because it's dangerous. Yeah. So with machine learning and AI, we're going into a new world. Like, even I was talking to a business owner the other day, and they're investors inside the company in Microsoft, based in Oxford University, and their technology is biotech. They're in the process of they can take a blood sample and tell you what diseases you're going to get in your life. So then
your life.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
Based on however you put in your body, machine learning AI can predict what diseases you're going to get. So imagine having that information and being like, well, okay, this is telling me I'm going to get heart disease. So what can I do right now to change myself so I've got a better chance of not getting heart disease? And we are going to be in a world of like nano sort of biotechnology and nanotech where we're probably going to be able to send sort of, I seen the Bond film last night and they were talking about it and about nanobots and how it can work for or against you. But those sort of nanobots in nanobiotech, now they will be available in our lifetime, where they'll be able to put nanobots in your body and they'll be able to clear out cholesterol and stuff, and that's going to happen. And but because people don't want to think that far ahead, and when I'm saying think that far ahead, that's not even that far away.
No.
Technology is an exponential growth, and you see what can happen now. If we look back 10 years of where technology was to where it is today and what we can do today, it's quite scary of how fast it moves. And when you're in a situation where we're having issues now with global supply chains because of all the stuff that's going on, what happens when how many breaks does robots take in a day? How many times does robots turn up late? How many times do robots have time off for maternity leave or a holiday? And do they?
Yeah, no, it's totally going to change, isn't it? You see now they're trialing, like, it all links really, doesn't it, to the universal basic income. Like, they're all going to end up. What are you going to do with all these people? They've got like a sort of ownership to keep people like alive as such, haven't they? Yeah. So they're going to be having to fund them, but they're trialing it, aren't they, in Wales? UBI, yeah, it's happening right now, isn't it?
Well, do you know what's funny about this? So I actually did a presentation last March on the way the economy was going, and we was talking about central bank digital currencies tied to UBI. And I swear people thought I had a tinfoil hat on. Even when I was talking about crypto, I was like, the halving's coming up. I was explaining why people should even consider, even just Bitcoin and Ether, even just consider those, right? And why you should consider them, right? Forget all the rest to start with. And people was like, because I was in property heavily then, a lot of the people that I was around was a bit like, was D gone crazy? And I was, even though I was showing facts, I was like, this is why I think, and it's just, I know a lot of their minds have changed now, but then UBI's come out now and they're like, oh, D, you said this. And I'm like, I'm not Nostradamus. It was obvious in a way that the way we were going, you're telling people to work from home and stay there and get paid. Where do you think that leads? People don't want to then get up after they spent their whole year working on their kitchen table with their kids running around, and then all of a sudden their boss goes, can you come in? It's like, well, I've been getting the same results from my kitchen table, so I don't really want to come in. Is that right? And then you've got people who don't want to work, wage inflation. What's their boss going to say? Oh, you're sacked then. And they're going to say, oh, people are basically dictating to their bosses now. It's like, I want a pay rise, I'm going to go and work for them over there. Or I want a pay rise, plus I want to work from home, plus I don't want to work Friday, plus I want this. And what can an employer say? Like, I have it said to me now with people. People are like, I want this much money to go to work or go and do that job because I got to drive 2 hours. And it's like, you can't even say anything because the employee is in control now. Like, if I was an employee of a company now and I was in like a decent role, I would be saying, I want a wage increase, or I'm going to go and work for somebody else because there's a million jobs out there and I know I can go and get more money. You basically got them by the balls now. So when we seen that was happening, and the human behavior is so predictable, right? And I seen the sentiment, the way it was changing. UBI was inevitable at some point anyway, but it was just like, this is going to get fast tracked, and it's probably going to be tied to the digital currencies, the central bank digital currencies, and it'll be time stamped. So it's going to be like, look, maybe they'll say you have to have the vaccine to get it, or however they want to position it. But, they could say, well, you can have £700 a month in UBI, but, because they got the access to the blockchain and central bank digital currencies, they'll say, well, it's a timestamp on it. So you have to spend it in the economy within 4 weeks or it disappears. And they can do that with CBDCs. So when you start having that sort of power behind people, and then they can change interest rates for people depending on how old you are. They can, sort of behavioral economics comes into it. They're in control of everything. They can switch stuff off whenever they want if you don't comply. Social credit scores. And I know people may be listening thinking it's speaking on sort of, they have to label it as conspiracy theories, but this isn't a conspiracy theory. I'm not telling you about the Twin Towers. I'm telling you that what's going to happen, because it's obvious. It's that technology is already there for them, but it makes sense. So it's efficient. It's more efficient for them to do so. It's not that we can argue the sort of control aspect of it, which there's going to be a more element of control in it, but it makes more sense. Why do we need the HMRC? Why do you need to submit tax returns every single year when the central bank can just be like, okay, well, you earn 40K a year, no one's just going to tax you based on that income. It's going to automatically come out of your bank account. What's the point in having all these different people involved? And so it makes more sense in a way. So it's good and bad. Like, I don't like the thought of it. I'd rather be more private. But I do get it as well, like, making stuff more centralized for them to benefit the efficiency of it all. But, it makes more sense for UBI. We're in a situation where we printed, like the US got $29 trillion deficit, right? They've discontinued the money supply chart off their website, the Federal Reserve. So we're in a situation where there's ridiculous amounts of money being printed. They're buying $120 billion worth of bonds on a week-to-week basis. They can't stop it because the economy's addicted to that inflationary environment, so they can't turn it off. They're talking about tapering. God help us when they start tapering, right? But
where are they going to take that from?
Well, I don't understand how. Like they tried it in 2014, it didn't work, right? So I don't know how they're going to do it in this environment. But we're in a situation where velocity of money is at zero, money supply is going through the roof. So to get velocity of money going again and to try and stimulate real economic growth, all this money printing hasn't done it. The sort of boost in the economy we've seen recently is because people's been locked in their house and had access to money, which they're not spending their day-to-day money on eating out for lunch when they're in work, traveling to work, because they're stuck in the house. So people have got more money than they've pretty much ever had in savings. It's fact. The savings of UK civilians and US civilians, it's proven that the savings are through the roof, higher than they've pretty much ever been. So we're seeing that now. People are, everything's open again. So it's like everyone wants to spend money. Human behavior doesn't change. So now it's like, I can spend money now. So I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make the most of all this money that I haven't been able to spend. And I'm going to spend. That gives us a boost for maybe 1-2 quarters. But then what happens then when people go back to where they are and they're not in work? That's what we got to think. But to get velocity of money moving and to stimulate real economic growth, you give somebody, it's not real economic growth because they're giving you the money. But if they say, here's the money, there's so much money, you have to spend it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, you have velocity of money. It's impossible for it not to rise.
Yeah.
Because now transactions in the economy are going to be more than they've ever been because people are forced to spend. Right now, you became government grants, bounce back loans. You can save it if you want. If you really wanted to, hold the money. That's what banks are doing. Central banks are going, to retail banks, open-ended credit line here whenever you want it, but they're not putting it into the economy. The public aren't actually getting access to that money. It's not coming into us. We're getting access to, say, government grants and furlough, but the money that the central banks are giving to retail banks isn't actually coming into the public. It's going to CEOs, the fat cats. That's where it's going. And that's just the way it is. It's the Cantillon effect. And yeah.
When you say velocity, just for people like listening, I'm assuming you're saying like the turnover of money then, is it?
So it's like
so when it's coming in, it's got to be spent.
Yeah, so to keep velocity of money going, it needs to be transacted within inside an economy. So, if I give you £1,000 and you just keep it in your account, velocity of money is not going to move. If you go and spend it in the local petrol station or corner shop, then the transactions in the economy bring velocity up. Right. But at the moment, velocity should be moving. But if you look at the money supply chart and the velocity of money chart, the money supply is going through the roof. And the higher the money supply goes, the lower the velocity goes, because they're printing money, but it's not actually getting into Joe Public, in the public. It's just sitting on banks' balance sheets. And then the problem is their lending criteria goes up, so they don't even want to lend money. And they don't need to lend money because banks lend money to make money. But if they're being given money, they're like, well, we don't need to lend to someone with a bad credit score anymore. We don't have to go give them the chance anymore. We'll lend to the person over there with a 999 credit score with a bunch of assets because that's safe for us. So we don't need to lend to them people anymore. And that's the way it's gone at the moment. And it's scary times because people just think that, it's amazing at the moment. They're like, everything's back open and it's false economy.
I know in work with us, like we're the busiest we've ever been. There's loads of people who maybe haven't spent their money on holidays or going here, there and everywhere, spending it all on their house and whatever. And I think, there's definitely more money about than ever.
Yeah.
Like the people have got, but maybe not using it, I suppose.
Well, do you know what? Now they are. At the moment, we're going for a bit of a mini economic boom in this quarter because everybody's been allowed out and spending money. Like you said, everywhere you go, it's busy. You have to book to go in restaurants. I've been trying to set events up myself and hotels fully booked. I'm talking 2-3 months ahead. So people are planning ahead because people are expecting this to keep going and to keep having access to all this money. And my point is, well, it could last another quarter, but the first quarter of next year is going to be sort of a defining point of if it gets pushed into the first quarter of next year. But we've got to make up for 18 months of basically a lack of economic growth. And can we do it? And can we do it in 1 quarter?
Yeah.
I definitely don't think we can, right? But if it gets pushed into another few quarters, which sort of the Biden administration looks like they're going to just continue to keep printing money. They basically want an unlimited supply of money. Janet Yellen said that it looks like the US could potentially run out of money by the 18th of October and potentially could default on debt. I can't see them allowing that to happen, because then they're basically going to sacrifice the stock market. I don't think they're going to do that right now. It'd be a disaster. But how long can they keep doing it? If they get it signed off and they can just keep using as much money as they want, then I don't get it. Like I seen the other day that they mentioned that we need to regulate stable coins as banks, and they're concerned of the underlying assets that they're tied to. I'm thinking, you've got to be joking me. Like, what underlying assets is your currency tied
gold,
to?
which is like just...
Well, yeah, now they took it off the gold standard in 71, so it's not tied to anything. So it's like you can't really say, well, they tied to, which I agree. Like, stable coins, some of them are a little bit iffy because they're not
like
really
the USDT and things like that.
They're not really tied to anything. They don't want to share what they're tied to because they're probably tied to nothing, which you do need to sort of that bridge anyway, regardless. But for them to say it, I was a bit like, it's laughable, really, that you're concerned. Yeah, look, like if you look at, I don't want to go into it now, but look at the fractional reserve banking system and what they've been doing for years and years and years. It's kind of laughable that they even haven't had conversation.
Have you ever seen Martin Mahoney's like Law of Money? He talks about like the Federal Reserve and all. I watched like a YouTube series of his, and I was talking about how it's just complete shambles. Yeah. I do it disjustice even trying to explain it, to be honest, but that's a good one to watch.
Yeah, I'll check it out. It's, the Federal Reserve, since they was sort of coming in 1913, if you just look at what's happened to the purchasing power of the dollar and all the stuff that has gone wrong and the misuse of people's money, and it's, they're a private entity. People think they're government. They're not. That's a private group of individuals that call themselves the Federal Reserve, that are the central bank of America. And same as the Bank of England is partly government, partly private. People just think that you're listening to the government talking to you on the news. You're not.
Me and my dad sat down last night, right, and we were like, right, so you bought your house, 30 years ago, say, and he bought his house that time for like 3.5 times his wages, like his yearly wage, and my house is 10 times my yearly wage now. Yeah. Like, that's just mental, isn't it? Like, how can, that's not even like justifiable, is it? Like, you're paying 10 times your yearly wage. That's like 3 times as much as he would have paid in relativity to like what we're paying now, which is just...
and because of lack of the debasement of currency and sort of inflation, like, the CPI index is not a secret. They manipulate it to keep it at around the 2% for them, right? And it's just a random basket of goods. Yeah. And they take stuff in and out whenever they want to make it fit at 2% usually, right? So, let's say there was a pack of salmon in there, and salmon becomes quite expensive. So like, we'll take this out, replace it with crab sticks or tin of tuna to keep that down. So we never really know what inflation's really running at. It's definitely not 2%. So the fact that they put core inflation figures at around 5%, like, that's quite ballsy for them to put that out. That, to me, that's like inflation running at like 15+%, potentially 20%. That's what that looks like to me. 2% is usually 10%. That's just the way it is.
Is it? Yeah.
So when you're looking at, if you just look at like assets and how they grow and work it out, it's impossible that's 2%. That doesn't make any sense. 2% to them is to keep sort of, to regulate the economy where people don't notice it as much, but then their debts get paid down. So it doesn't matter if they take on debt for 30 years, by the time that debt comes and, to get paid off, it gets inflated away. And that's why people don't mind. That's why China don't mind buying US bonds and all this type of stuff. Now, I lost my train of thought then. So the inflation. So when you're looking at like assets now, and like you speak to people like, say, your dad, and say I talk to someone in my family like my auntie, wherever, she says, I bought my house for 20K and now it's worth 150. I'm like, yeah, that's good, but the difference is that 150K today and that 30K that you paid in today, there's not much difference in the value of that money.
Yeah, what you can get for it.
Yeah, so when you see the stock to flow chart of Bitcoin, and it says there's going to be 1 million, and some people say it's going to be 10 million, when it becomes $1 million for a Bitcoin, is that $1 million going to be worth $1 million, or is it going to be worth $250,000 or $500,000? So yeah, I think we are going to see, those sort of figures down the line, but it doesn't mean it's going to be worth it will be worth in that day $1 million, but today's money, because of inflation, etc., and the debasement of currency, it may not be that. It could be $10 million. But
what can you get for it?
Yeah,
that's essentially it. What can you trade it for?
Go to Venezuela now or Zimbabwe and go and buy a cup of coffee and see how much it costs you. And in their currency, millions of their pounds in their currency or whatever. And it's just it's just gets a bit out of hand. I'm not saying we're going to see hyperinflation, because I think that they'll try and control it as much as they can, but.
It's all just faking it, though. Really, it's all.
It's just, to be fair,
just a game.
Smoke and mirrors. The Federal Reserve was put in place to do a job. The IMF are there to look at macroeconomics and to sort of make sure everything's running a certain way, and they all got to show what they want to show. That's why you don't really see much changes when you see different presidents come in, because the reason why they kick the can down the road is because no one wants to be left holding the bag. Like if Biden now, for instance, he's not going to want to be like, well, I tell you what, I'm just going to let everything roll over and we'll just all go to shit, because no, he's going to be like, nah, we'll kick the, not that I think he's even in control, but you won't be left holding the bag. He's going to be like, no, we'll just keep kicking this down the road a little bit, and eventually it'll land on somebody. And we've seen it before. It's not,
They want to get back in as well, didn't they? Like this, it's like, they reckon the first year they actually tried to do stuff. The next 3 years, they're just concentrating on doing the right things to get back in.
Well, yeah, how often do people, when you see what they campaign compared to what they actually do, I always say, don't do what they say, do what they do. Watch what they do, know what they say. And it's the same as investors, same as bankers, same as all of them, right? Yeah. Everybody says something. Talk about Bitcoin, for instance. You see JP Morgan and all the big banks saying all the bad stuff about it, but then they go and buy it and they offer it to their high net worth clients. It's like, stop doing what they say, watch what they do. It's the same across the board. And yeah, that's the thing I think that we get confused about in the public watching the media, is we take everything they say as gospel, and then we run, but they said this on the news the other day. It's like, do you know that like 6 corporations own every single news channel in the world?
Yeah.
They're going to tell you whatever they want you to know. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
I know, mate. Like we talked earlier, you just got to turn it off at a certain point, haven't you? Because it just takes over your life. And it's just, the thing is, what they do is they pump it full of like all negative stuff. And right at the end, they'll be like, oh yeah, Timmy down the road, like something positive, I don't know, got his cat saved or something, just to like spin it off. So then like you go back in it. Yeah. But they just fill you full of bad energy the whole way through, and then
the bad news always sells. So regardless of how you look at it, the news is going to give you what people want to hear, and unfortunately people prefer to hear bad news than good. If we had a conversation now and it was something bad, then more than likely one of us goes and says, oh, you never guess what I heard. If you say something good, how often does it get brought up? Very rarely. And
it's like doing a title for my podcasts. I don't say this guy's really positive. Do you know what I mean? I say like some of the worst things. Like if someone was like
clickbait, so people
if someone was like a heroin addict, they'll be like, oh, heroin addict does this, or
because that's what people want to see, because that's what they find interesting. So for you to say that is like they gravitate towards it, and you grab them as an audience because they want to hear, what's this? It's just
draw them in. But I'm hoping it actually is positive then.
You know what I mean? Of course, but it's just the way life people are, mate. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's mental, mate. So, well, you've kind of helped me understand NFTs a bit, because you see it all over the place, don't you? But it's like, what does it mean? How do you know you're not getting scammed? Like for a start, what's a good project, or not a good project as such, but what's like the key things to look out for?
What, in crypto or
NFTs? I'd say, I think like crypto. Not everyone obviously knows like about crypto or whatever, but
well. With NFTs, so for me, I'm not a big fan of NFTs as they are right now. I think that I know some people that's made some serious money in the NFT space. For me to sort of trade my ETH in for NFTs, I'm a bit skeptical. It's obviously a lot of liquidity and a lot of trading volume in it, but as far as liquidity goes and how illiquid they are, if I go and buy a picture of one of those Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, a picture of an ape, then if I want to liquidate it, I got to find somebody else that wants that picture of the ape. Whereas if I want to liquidate ETH, I can do it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whenever I want, right? And anyone will buy it. because they're burning ETH now, so it's becoming deflationary. Supplies are going down because they're moving to ETH 2.0. So NFT wise, there's websites like Rarity Tools, Nifty River, and then OpenSea, where you can sort of really get stuck into it and sort of get involved. And like I said, people are making some serious money. And I think that for me, I look at this as like testing seasons. So I feel like, the NFT space, the fact that they've proven that people will value these JPEGs the way they are, and you've got Sotheby's, some of the biggest auction houses in the world, taking these serious and selling them, right, making millions and millions of dollars. So I think now they've tested this will become, it already is an asset class, and it will stay. I think it will stay. I'm not sure how long this sort of, you could say they're in a bubble, whatever you want to say it, but, let's say it isn't a bubble, and when it pops, it'll always come back. The way they are now. Not sure whether some of them will be worth what they are now, just like we see in a lot of projects in every bull run, some of them never come back.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're going to see, this is like the testing season for NFTs, when we start seeing tokenized real estate, tokenized other tangible assets, when we really see how that works. But it shows that people value that digital space. And I think Gary Vee said it best, I think that he said, about, you can't see them, and you can't touch them and stuff. And it's like, I think he said something like, I don't really listen to Gary Vee that much, but I've seen a clip, and it was, he said, "Oh yeah, I got 9 million followers on Instagram, and I'm verified, but when I walk down the street, you can't see them, but they have value, and you value them." And it's true. It's like it's a different world, so it's easy for someone to say, can't see it. I don't want to buy Bitcoin because you can't see it. Why would I want that? I'd rather buy gold. And it's like, okay, well, let's compare them. Let's compare Bitcoin to every asset. We're in an all-time high housing market. We had the best housing market because of money printing since ever. Right now, crazy amounts, crazy valuations, still can't outperform Bitcoin. And we're not even talking about all the other alts. I'm talking about just Bitcoin. You look at gold. Gold has no chance in hell outperforming Bitcoin. And I'm against gold or silver, because I hold gold and silver. But to me, it is the best performing asset. It has been for the last decade. It's facts. So yeah, you can't see it, but do you need to see it?
Yeah.
Like you don't know when you go and spend money on your card. You can't see the money.
No.
When you look at your balance, you can't see it. That's just numbers on the screen.
Do you think you'll get to the point, like, say, if there ever was a big changeover and that, like, Bitcoin or crypto become like the currency people were using on a day to day? Because like you can get cards on certain websites and things now, can't you? You spend on and everything? Do you think you'll be using it without even knowing it at a certain point? Like, people will be using it.
Well, yeah, it technically is happening now. So El Salvador's legal tender. So they more people are using Bitcoin than banks already in El Salvador. That hasn't been very long. You've got Jack Mallers, what he's just done with Strike and Twitter. I think that's phenomenal. So
I think I seen your post on that the other day, but if you could explain it, that'd be
so
cool.
There's a tipping system on Twitter now. So you can basically send money through the Lightning Network, so the layer 2 network, which gives you instant Bitcoin transactions. So let's say you was in Brazil and I'm here, I can send you any amount of money I want, instant, with no fee.
Yeah.
So what happens to Western Union, MoneyGram? What happens to all the payment systems? Now I can just send it to you. What happens if you build my website for me? I'd normally pay you through PayPal and Stripe. It's like, oh, website's done. Ping it over for the Lightning Network. It changes everything. Even you go into shops. Why would you now, like he says it good, because he says, if you go into Starbucks, he's a bit cocky, but I like it the way he is, because he's very knowledgeable. And he's only a young kid. He goes, if you go into Starbucks and they say, how do you want to pay? He goes, what a stupid fucking question. He's like, you're either paying with Visa or MasterCard. It's a monopoly. You're using one or the other, unless you use cash. Whereas and there's fees involved in that, right? So if I'm Starbucks, I'm taking a hit on a fee because you're using your card. You use a Lightning Network. What it does, this is what's incredible, what he's done with Strike. If I send you the money and you're in America, right? And you need US dollars, I'm using pounds. I can send you, say I use £100. So what it does is it'll convert my pounds. So I just connect my wallet to it, and it'll convert it into Bitcoin to send the payment there and then instantly. Then it reconverts into dollars, so you receive at the other end. So for free with no fees. So you get your dollars, I get my pounds. Don't get the Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin is the sort of monetary network to get it from A to B. This has completely changed the game in the way the monetary system works. Think about it, right? Look at the way we have to go. If I want to send money now to my brother in Dubai, it takes about a week to get it. I got to go for all these different checks. And it's a very long-winded process. If I want to send it in for the Lightning network, I'll be like, yeah, it'll be with you in 2 seconds.
It's crazy though, isn't it? What a change. And
yeah, it's unreal. And so we're already in that world, and it's going to be now. What he says is true. Facebook, Instagram, Facebook and Instagram, same thing. Facebook, Apple Pay, PayPal, they got no choice but to use it, because now Twitter is basically a financial services company by default, because they got the best payment system in the world, and they already got 200 million users on the platform.
That's just mental. I had a look at it the other day after you said, and I couldn't. You must have to do it on like a desktop or something, I imagine, is it?
Also, here, Strike, you can't get in the UK yet.
Right.
So it's in the States, it's in a few different places. But on the podcast, I hear it on Pomp's podcast, he says that, I'm not going to say who, but he said the UK was almost the first ones, but they lost to the States in the end. So the fact that the UK was nearly first means that it's pretty much going to be here anytime, because they're already talking. And then when Facebook and all of them not adopt it, that's what I mean. People just look at Bitcoin and be like, it's not a store of value because it's too volatile. Why do you use Bitcoin? It takes too long to send. This Bitcoin, this. And I'm like, well, now you've got an open source network that's decentralized, that's owned by nobody, and you can use it as the rail, so the underlying rail and the bridge for payment systems. You don't even need to own it if you don't want to. Just use it as the bridge that converts it from currency to currency. So all this death of fiat currency and all this that people talk about, it's like, yeah, fiat currencies do have 100% failure rate, and they do have an average lifespan of 25 years. But we don't need the death of fiat currencies for Bitcoin to work. If fiat currencies die, Bitcoin's not going to save you. You know, people asked me this before. What do you think? I'm buying Bitcoin because we're going to have a global reset and fiat currency is going to die. I'm like, well, you're buying the wrong thing. You go and buy some guns and food.
It's going to go crazy.
Bitcoin is not going to save you in our world. None of us want to see what our world looks like. So they can coexist, and we can use both. We don't need to just one to survive. But I think a lot of like sort of Bitcoin maxis do feel that, we can only have Bitcoin. And then
what's a Bitcoin maxi for?
Well, someone who's like just all in Bitcoin. Don't want a world. We don't want a world with fiat currency. Dollar needs to die. This is the world we live in. Decentralize everything, and sort of get my freedom back. Which, you know, to a certain extent, I think we should have some more privacy and freedom. But there's a system, and it's a banking system, and the bankers know the system better than anyone because they made it.
Yeah. So
for us to think that, you know, and I think that whoever Satoshi is, him, her, they built something incredible, that for what they've managed to put together, that, you know, even this 51% hack that people, you know, to take over the network can't even, it needs to be more than 51% technically. That's not going to happen now. We've basically created an indestructible money, which anyone can use, and it banks all the unbanked, which we've seen in El Salvador. I think it's more important now to be your own bank than ever. You know, we're in a situation where it is quite uncertain what's going to happen in the banking sector. You know, I think it was the G7 in a couple of years ago, like 6-7 years ago, where they basically made it okay to use capital controls to, you know, like we've seen in Cyprus when they told people they could only draw a certain amount of money out, and they took people's money and give them bank shares in replacement. Why would you want bank shares in a bank that's
obviously failing? Yeah.
But that's what, and they can do that here now. So that's the system we live in. So to be your own bank in crypto, regardless of how volatile and people, you know, maybe a bit skeptical, you know, companies like Nexo, where you can just create an account, it is fully collateralized loans. You can grant yourself an instant loan with no credit check, up to quite a high LTV. Yeah. Why would you ever go to and the interest is only paid back when you decide to repay the loan? It could be in 20 years' time if you want. There's no monthly interest. The interest is fixed for when you pay it back. Why would you ever go to a bank and try and get loans? You know, people say about, go and get access to money. Banks need to lend money. Well, they don't at the moment, for a start. And secondly, do you know what the easiest money to get is right now? If you've got a credit card, and seeing those APRs and those interest rates, like 20, 25, 24%, that's not cheap money.
No, you're in a hole then, aren't you?
Yeah, and then most people get into that, and then it compounds against them, because that once you start letting that interest stack against you, it's hard to get bring it back.
Yeah.
Whereas you go and grant your own loan with a fixed interest that you can pay back whenever you decide to pay the loan back. You only have to draw the money down whenever you want to draw the money down, and whenever it's used, you can become your own bank.
So what companies can you do that through? Sorry?
Nexo is probably the best one. Yeah, Nexo is probably the best. But you can do it. Quite a lot of the platforms now are offering the same products. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. I like Nexo because it's the one I trust the most. But, you know, you can be your own bank. And then you said the cards, you know, when they stopped onboarding customers on some of these, with the banks shut it down, there's always ways to do it. But you just got to be creative and you become your own bank. The quicker you can become your own bank, the more free you're going to be in with all this going on. And crypto does allow you to do that. You know, you can take full control back over your money.
I see crypto.com. I don't know if you use them at all, but like if you got a certain amount in there and you got one of their cards, like I think it was like the black card, the best one, you get 8% on everything you buy back. Yeah.
So if you
how can they how does that work? How is that viable?
Yeah, so you have to buy, I think on the main one, I think it's like $400,000 worth of Crow tokens, so they're native tokens. So they want to onboard as many people as possible, right? So with you know, they could balance that out with many different things. You know, they charge fees on transactions. There's loads of ways they can balance it out, but they're giving you 8% back. Plus you get like, you know, the Netflix, the Spotify free and all that. But you can get that on some of the lower cards too.
Yeah, I see that.
But yeah, it's to me the crypto.com card. The 8% is great to get back anyway, obviously. But for me, it's just a way to onboard onto exchanges or take money off if you want. You know, imagine like NatWest turn around and say, which they already have, and say, you know, well, you can't take crypto out or use your card anymore. Well, that's okay. You can sell, let's say you own Ether and you want to spend it. You sell your Ether down to like USDT or whatever, and then you just get your crypto.com card and you go and spend it in the shop. You want to go and buy TV, you can buy a TV. You want to go and buy whatever, you can go and buy it, and JD, tracksuit, whatever you want. And it again allows you to be your own bank. You don't need to have NatWest, HSBC, Barclays dictate what you do and what you don't do. What I find funny is they're quick to say it's for your own safety why we're telling you can't invest in cryptocurrency. Okay, if that's the route you want to take, well, stop people from gambling, stop people from betting on sports sites. If you're that concerned about stuff that protects people, then yeah, why are you letting them gamble on Bet365, and why are you letting them go to casinos? And you know,
it's the death of them they're worried about, isn't it?
Of course it is. But what I don't understand is, if I use my HSBC card, I send $10,000 or whatever or pounds to Binance, and then I draw down 12,000 in 6 months' time or 20,000. That's the easiest way for them to tax it. Why would you say, oh, that money you can't bring back into this account? So, well, fine. You know, yes, there's going to be ways that they're already working on it, their task force, on how it's going to be taxed, but I feel like they're making it hard for themselves. Most people will draw their money down back into their bank and spend it, but they're not allowing them to. It just doesn't make no sense. So
yeah, because they need it there, don't they?
Well, yeah,
that's their business as well, to have your money in their bank.
Like, you know, like yes, the second, like we're talking back to fractional reserve banking, that's how they do it. You take £100 off somebody, then they have to hold meant to be 10% in reserves, meant to be, and then they lend the rest out, and then the next bank does the same, the next bank does the same, and there's a knock-on effect. Now, I would be surprised if they are capitalized at 10% in reserves. They're meant to be from the 2008 financial crisis, but I find that highly unlikely that they've done that. To be fair, they can basically do whatever they want.
They've proven that over and over, really, and it's mental. But
yeah, they've done it back in 2014, I think it was, or 2016. The banks went to the SEC and basically asked if they could regulate themselves and make their own rules up. They can do whatever they want. We can't, but they can.
Yeah, I see. Like a lot of people talking about Ripple because they're in an SEC lawsuit at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, how do you have like a judgment on their future?
Yeah, I think Ripple, like they're linked to like the World Economic Forum, and you know, I'm not a massive Ripple fan, but I think a lot of crypto sort of investors don't like Ripple because it's centralized or whatever, right? But you know, there's going to be a need. There's a need for it, but there's obviously, you could use others if you want as well. But I feel you could argue that pretty much every crypto is centralized. Like, somewhere
along the way.
Well, yeah, if you know the person that owns it, and you know, regulators can get a hold of them and tell them what to do, then technically somewhat it is centralized. So yeah, XRP or Ripple is it is a bit different because but I think they'll probably, I'm not sure how the case is going, but they'll probably win the case and go on and become something. But yeah, it's not one of my favorites, but I do think that it's probably going to continue to grow. It's been sort of suppressed for a long time.
Yeah. That's it. I know a few people who've got money in it because they're hoping that when the lawsuit drops,
it probably will.
It'll fly. Yeah,
it probably will. You know, it's like a lot of the sort of like quite big authorities are linked to Ripple, so it probably will do pretty well.
Yeah.
Regardless, really.
Yeah, I have to get more involved in this space, I think, because I'm just like, I know a bit about it, and I've like watched your crypto challenge and things, but like I've never grabbed the bull by the horns and dove in, to be honest. And that's
you know, and it's one of those where like I'll say to anyone, you know, you don't need to be in and out of all these different projects. You know, you can if you want to be active, but you know, an example I used in a webinar yesterday was just take Cardano for instance, right? One that everybody knows, class as a blue chip, but it's cheap, right? One of the cheaper ones. Now, if you put £1,000 in Cardano a year ago, yesterday, it'd be worth 21,000 now.
Yeah.
So, and if you just was patient and you held, now it's not a lot to ask to hold it for a year to get those sort of gains, but people get so immersed into what he's doing and she's doing, and all these different people are doing. Oh, you need to do this, and they're moving all this stuff around, creating all these taxable events. Because every time you sell or convert into another crypto, that's a taxable event every single time, right? And they're gonna come. They're gonna come back for everyone, right? So all these people in and out thinking that I'm just gonna take money. You know, if you just buy and hold, but find the right projects to buy and hold. Yeah, you can have your few high risk ones in there to see where they go. But if you just buy and hold and find solid projects and research them, you're pretty much gonna win. Yeah. You don't need to be trying to beat the market and do all. It moves so quickly, you know, and things change so much. Like we could talk tomorrow and you could go on CoinDesk or one of the media websites, say, oh, have you heard of this? And I'd be like, no, because it's impossible to keep up with everything that's going on. I get people message me and say, what do you think of this token or this token? I've never even heard of them. I'm like, I don't know. I never heard of it. Yeah. It's because there's so many new projects. I actually went on Saturday to like a Polkadot meetup, the project Polkadot in Hyde Park. And I was talking to developers, and the one guy was saying that in his class in Cambridge University, everyone that studied the DeFi and the blockchain class, he said, I was asking him what's his favorite projects. And he said, obviously the one he's creating is called Interlay. And then he said, most of the ones I like are the ones that my friends have created in my class. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, they're all working on their own project. So when you see like Amazon and Apple advertising for blockchain experts, it's probably hard for them to get because all the ones that are good at it are creating their own projects. Why would they go and work for them when they can create their own? It's a fascinating time. Whereas there's a lot of jobs that are available that no one wants now, the new technology will create more for developers, coders, and people like that. Even gamers. You know, look at the way you can monetize pretty much anything now, because of the digital world.
Anything you can get eyes on, pretty much, isn't it? It's pretty much where it is. Attention's where the money's at, isn't it?
100%. Like if you look on the things you spend the most time doing now, and if I said to you, where do you listen to your music? You're not going to say on a CD. You're going to say Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever. And if I say to you, to a gamer, where do you play games? They're going to be like a game that I've purchased on my console, whichever one they play on. They don't put the disc in anymore. You know, if I say to you, how do you see your bank balance? You don't say I go into the bank and ask them to show me the money. You just go on your phone. Everything is. If you think of how valuable someone's phone is in this day and age, and every entire life is run off a phone.
You can't live without it now, can you?
No, that's the way it is. So, for technology to continue to move the way it is, to me, fascinating tech like 3D print. Like they can 3D print nutritious food now. So we're having a lack of sort of supply of food because population is growing way too quick for us to keep up. There's only so many sort of, it sounds bad, but cows you can kill, pigs you can kill, chickens you can kill to keep up with feeding the population. I actually seen a stat before that America consume more chicken than they produce, which I thought that was a bit strange, but yeah, a bit weird, but
yeah,
I don't know how that works.
What are they filling it full of, like, isn't it?
So that's crazy. But because they can now 3D print nutritious food, they can 3D print houses. Mexico's just done 3D printed 200 houses.
Really?
So yeah,
that's mental.
So 200 or 200,000, I think it was. I can't remember. But they're doing it in New York. They're doing it pretty much everywhere. But now that's going to help with the homeless. But if we're probably going to move into a world where on Amazon, where you order it and it turns up at your door on Prime, sometimes the same day. That's how crazy this is, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be buying probably the intellectual property rather than the physical items. So let's say this glass. So you want to order 4 of these glasses. You're going to buy a 3D printer off Amazon initially, and then you'll pay them for the intellectual property of this Amazon glass.
Right. Yeah.
And then you'll get a code. You'll type it into the 3D print, and then they'll print it. And that's the world we're going to be living in. It's already happening now. It's just not used day to day. But
that's just mental, isn't it? That whole concept.
Yeah. If you type
makes so much sense.
Oh yeah, it's more efficient. If you Google 3D print construction now, and you see what they've done with houses, you cannot tell the difference. They're both the same, but one gets printed, which doesn't take all these materials logistically, getting them from there to there, all these staff, plumbers, carpenters, builders, all these people. It's just 2 or 3 people to navigate the machine, and it prints the entire house.
I need to see that in action. Like, do you know what I mean? To understand it, like, to you saying it, it's just like, because you're just picturing this 3D printer you see in like high school or whatever. You're like, well, how the fuck is that going to work?
It's unreal. And like when you see it, you can design it wherever. So you'll be able to go online, design the house that you want. I want marble floors there. I want a marble effect there. I want wood there. And you can design it, and it all gets done for you. It's a completely different world we're going into. And then what happens then to the construction industry? You know, that's what we got to look at as well. It's just, you know, Taylor Wimpey they're already using modular build, like roofs and different things like that. So where it's modular, it's not how we typically do it with slate or whatever. And, you know, these modular builds have these sit panels, which they all just connect together. The carpenter puts them all together and batches them together. Yeah. And that they're already more efficient than doing all this brickwork. They just put it all together. But then now 3D prints taking it to a new level again. You know, it's already big around the world. NASA has invested in one of the big 3D print companies because they want to start 3D printing on the moon. So but because we're just tied up in this tunnel vision bubble every day in society that we listen to the news, we don't even, unless you research, we don't even see all this that's going on. Yeah. But how can you capitalize on it? That's what you need to think. It's right. Can I invest in these companies? We know this sector is going to grow. Yes, we got to pick the Amazon of the sector or whatever. But this is how, you know, to stay ahead of the game, you got to look at tech.
Do you keep, because like I find, right, when I've got free time and say I have a couple of days off or whatever, that's when like I get creative and I actually think of something that's like a good idea. And do you allow yourself like creative time to like look into all these projects and things? I know like that's like your business, but like sometimes time out and just casually strolling through, you kind of get in like a flow state, don't you? Do you find you've got to try and get in that space? Or
so you talked about meditation earlier, right? Now meditation is something I find hard. Right? I find it hard to switch off. Daydreaming sort of a form of meditation, but so for me to relax, you know, I go through this process. I wake up, make sure I'm at the house by 5 a.m. every single morning, not just because of the 5 a.m. club, because that's one day a week, but I wake up 5 a.m. It's a bit harder in this weather, but when I was in Dubai or the States, wake up and I just go and find somewhere to ground. Now I just take my shoes and socks off. And when someone first told me about this, I thought it was crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, take my shoes and socks off and walk on the ground.
Hippie.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then the one day I thought, let me be open-minded. So I went and did it. I don't know what it was. It felt like I felt a bit of the energy from the earth, and I enjoyed it. And it did. I relaxed, and that's when I think. So I do it. I listen to some music that I like some peaceful, more laid-back music. And I do that. Like I said, it's a bit harder when it's shoveling it down with rain, but you know, even though that's good for you as well, and you just go out there, and to me, you was grounded on either grass or sand. Actually, how often do we actually take our shoes and socks off and walk on the actual ground of the earth?
Yeah, sleep in your bed off the ground. Everything.
You walk in your house, you walk on like concrete, wood, or carpet. You're not really grounded to the earth. Whereas when you go outside, you're on the grass, on the sand, grounded to the earth. I know it sounds crazy, anybody listening, but it helps. For me, the energy I felt from it, I've been super stressed, done that, and felt better. And I'm somebody who's like, I got to see stuff to believe it, right? Someone can't just tell me something. I'm just like very skeptical unless I see it to believe it or feel it, right? And I generally, that energy, I feel it, and it does, it relaxes me. I get creative. I do think big, think of ideas, think of, gratitude is something huge. I never used to do this until this year, January. I started to really sort of practice gratitude and like really think about how grateful I am, and it's changed everything for me as well. Before, and I think it's being here in the UK, before I left the UK, tunnel vision, bubble, your own bubble, and you're just like, you don't look up to the sky, you don't look at the mountains, you don't look at nothing, you just tunnel vision, wherever you're going, that's the direction you're looking, and you do it, you see people, you do these things, and then you go to sleep, do the same thing over and over again. When I went to Dubai, it was I don't know, it was just, I was taking in, even though I've been there quite a lot of times, you just start taking things in more, and I started to be like, I'm grateful for the fact I'm here, I'm grateful for my children, I'm grateful for these different things, my partner, and everything that, that you have around you, even the little tiny things, right? And then, I don't know, gratitude and grounding for me is huge. And I wanna be able to keep progressing. I want to get to the stage where I can meditate, right? I missed out actually because before I left the States, my cousin goes to this Buddhist temple and they meditate, and I didn't manage to go. I really wanted to go to see if the environment that I was around would. I find it hard to just relax and switch off. I do want to get to that stage. I'm not there yet, and I want to progress, and I want to learn, and I want to make sure I can get there. So, I'll take some tips from you because I've really struggled.
Yeah, well, I struggle as well, mate. I think it's the hardest thing to do is sit there and do nothing. The hardest thing to do. I tell you what, like the grounding as well. I do that as well, to be honest with you. And that does sound crazy to people, and that's why I said hippie. Like I was only taking a piss because I do it as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's generally like sort of science behind that, because I work for Western Power. That's my day job, right? And when I first started with them, they took us around like all these different substations and things, like so big power stations. And in certain ones, you got to wear these dielectric wellies, so they're like insulated wellies, so you don't get any electrical. Yeah. You don't get electrocuted, basically. Then in a certain one, you weren't supposed to wear them because the voltage was so high. Because if you wear them, so you've got an insulator on the bottom, and then the air is a natural insulator, so above your head. So effectively, a battery, you charge up like a battery when you're in the substation because of all the voltage around you. And then when you take your wellies off, when you come outside, you get electric shock because you're earthed. So basically, like wearing your trainers and everything, you're just walking around getting charged up all the time without knowing it. Yeah. So then when you take them off, it's like dissipate that energy. There is definitely a physical thing that's happening. It's science. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel better when I do it as well. I should know, like working for the electricity company, but that's my explanation for it. So it's happening on a grand scale when you're in this environment, but we walk around in an environment full of EMFs, voltages all around us all day in, day out, and you think it's not going to make a difference?
Of course, yeah.
It's got to, isn't it?
It is like a release too, like you said, like that's like a release. But yeah, and the meditation stuff is something that I would love to do. I have tried it. I do find it hard, but sometimes you naturally go into meditation. Like even when you drive your car, sometimes people get in the car and then they go from A to B, and sometimes you get to B and you're like, I can't even remember going down now, bro, because you go into this bit, you go into like a meditative state.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't even remember driving down that road, and then you start thinking, how did I drive the car without knowing I was driving the car? But there's a thing years ago I did when I was playing basketball, and it was a jump program so I could jump higher, and it was called Weibo Way. It was like a Japanese way of life, and it was do things without thinking about it. So it was like to try and dunk, it was like you do all these different exercises, calf raises or whatever, but you have to just do it without thinking of it to be able to dunk the basketball. And it's the same as like what we do there. When you drive the car, you're like, I just done it. I didn't think about it, but we do it naturally in life anyway. So for me, I want to get to a state where I can meditate without thinking about me trying to meditate. That's what I find hard, is being able to meditate without thinking, right, I'm going to meditate right now. So meditate. I can't do it. It's hard. So I want to try and get to that level. Yeah.
It's like walking the dog for me. That's what it is. If I don't take any music or anything like that, because it's like halfway around, I'm like, or if I haven't taken my phone, I'm like, great ideas just come to me. Well, if I need to write this down or whatever. But something you should try if you haven't already is a float tank. Have you ever heard of them? Like Joe Rogan talks about.
You know what's crazy about this, right? somebody said this to me 2 days ago that 3 days ago I should do this float stuff, right? A friend of mine owns one up in Norwich, right? So I was too far away, but there's some in Cardiff, right? I think
Swansea and Forest of Dean as well.
Yeah, someone told me this. You need to do it, right? And I was like, should I? What was
it's like forced meditation for you. That's what it'll be, because you can't struggle to sit down to do it. So basically, I'd say like it's like a not a chamber, like it's just like a room. So this is about the same length as this table, a bit wider. And it's just full of water, the same same temperature as your body, so like 37.5 degrees. It's full. I think it's like 500 kilos of like Epsom salts in it.
Okay.
So the salts make you float basically in the water, and the body temperature, water, and then the air above you, it's all like the same temperature. So you got a job to tell, like when you get into the state of what's water and what's air, and it's so dark in there that there's no it's basically sensory deprivation is what it's called. So you're in there. They played like really soft, like meditative music for the first 10 minutes, and then I tell you what, the first time you go there, you're a little bit iffy because you're a little bit like, it sounds crazy, but you've got all these things like you're walking in, you're like saying hi to the people, they're setting you up. You've never done it before, so you're a bit like in this weird place. You do it, and then after about half an hour, you're just like really chilled out basically. And I try to concentrate on breathing when I'm in there and just dealing with thoughts and things. But I found like the second and third time I went there, and I didn't know, I got into a place, I didn't know if I was awake or asleep. I didn't know if I was at home in bed or there. It was mental, mate. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. But I've done it 5 or 6 times. And it's a weird thing. I was doing it like once a month at one point until lockdown. And then I'd notice as I was coming closer to me doing it again, like the effect it had on me. Yeah. Like my mindset for like a month is crazy. I reckon it's like the equivalent of having like 5-6 hours of deep sleep.
Wow.
In like 1 hour sitting. And
I need to try this.
Try it, mate. It's great. Honestly. Yeah. It's the one in Swansea is the one I used.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
What is city centre?
Down the uplands. It's not far off.
Google Maps.
Google Map it, mate. But I think it's like 40 quid an hour or something. And
I need to try it definitely, because if it forces you into it, that's what I need. Because
we'll go one day if you want.
Let's
go.
Go.
You're around for a bit, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm around for a bit. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I've been meaning to go for ages since they've opened back up, and I just haven't got down there. But
how long are you in there for?
An hour. It's a long time.
Can you get out if you want?
Yeah, you can get out. Yeah, you're in full control. Yeah,
that's good, because I'm a bit claustrophobic.
You'll find it weird, mate. Yeah, but it's proper cool. It's proper cool. I was supposed to do a podcast with a bloke from there at some point, but I haven't put it together yet. Yeah,
no, it's not, like I said, it's not the first time I heard people say good things about it. So it's something I would like to try, because we do tend to just let life sort of get on top of us, don't we? So
don't rub your eyes though. That's the only piece of advice I've got, because salt water in it kills me. But anyway, I think that was awesome, mate. I think if we go too far now, there'll be too much for people to consume. But I appreciate you coming in, mate, and making the journey.
I liked it. It's good.
Yeah, definitely. When next time, if you go away and come back or whatever, we'll do it again sometime.
Part 2.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do it in the VR, mate.
Let's do it. Yeah. Wicked.
Right, awesome. Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Nice one.
Experience Real Podcast.